channel. This is Ed. We are going to dive into annotations. So one thing about the difference between the ViWoods AiPaper, the BOOX Note Air 4C, and the Supernote Manta is this idea of how effective is it at notating EPUBs. I do want to at least address some of the functionalities that I've been talking about quite a bit concerning how you would go about using these devices in an academic setting, or really in any setting where you need to mark up documents, specifically if you need to mark up PDFs and EPUBs, which are the most common types. And it's really important first how you get those onto the device. And secondly, what kinds of tools you have once you have it on the device. How do you mark it up? How do you make annotations? How do you do scribbles? How do you get the information on there you need? And then finally, how do you get it off of the device? And what does that look like when it does come off of the device? So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the three cloud, quote unquote, cloud applications of the products. And then we're going to look at the devices themselves and the tools available. Now, I'm to try and keep this as fair as I can. We're only looking at the web interfaces for the devices. And that's why I said kind of quote unquote apps, because the WeWoods doesn't technically have an app. It has a web upload and download interface, and it's different than the other two platforms. The other two platforms have cloud services and then also have dedicated desktop and mobile apps. And to keep it fair, I'm not going to talk about the apps in any great detail. So I'm just going to show you using the web interfaces, how can I do these things. However, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump over and get into it. Right now, you're only seeing two of the apps. You're seeing the Supernote and the WeWoods. Primarily, that's because I'm going to show you first the book we're going to look at. And you'll see here that I picked 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas by Jules Verne from Project Gutenberg. I wanted to show you first how to quickly download that and then how I would upload this onto the different platforms. The first thing you would do is go ahead and download the book itself. So I'm going to go with the most current EPUB version, EPUB 3. There are all kinds of different options here, but I'll go ahead and do download, and you'll see that popped up right here. I was going to do Abraham Lincoln, but he's already on some of the devices, and I wanted to do a fresh upload. So I went ahead and I downloaded that. So I switch over here and you can see this is the Books app. So you have Books here in the top right, you have WeWoods over here on the left, and you have Supernote here on the bottom. One thing I do want to point out is that in here, basically you have your reading list, and all this does is sync your reading status in Books. It doesn't actually, you have to go a different way to bring it into the device, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. WeWoods will only show you things that you have exported from the device. So you won't actually see anything in here that is imported to be sent to the device. You can import, and I'm not going to do a deep dive into all of these apps or web interfaces, but I do want to show you kind of what they are and the major difference between them. Books, you can see pretty much everything. You can see your notes, you can see push to read, books drop, all these other things you can do. WeWoods, you get 24, 12, 2, or 30 minutes to have the information basically available to you to pull from the web interface to the device, or anything you export from the device to the web interface will be deleted within that time frame you set. The maximum is the 24 hours, and you will only see the exports. So you won't see anything over here when we go to import, and I'll show you how that works. And then the Supernote, you basically get in the web interface, which is the cloud interface, is a lot different than the apps, and that's both for Books and Supernote. Books is more consistent. The Supernote apps are just miles ahead, light years ahead of the web interface, but you still do get to see all of your things. So you'll notice I'm in Documents and I'm in EPUBs and I'm in my device. And if I were to click up here, I'd be able to see, matter of fact, I'll do that. I can uncollapse that menu and I can see all of my folders. And so those are the major differences. On the Supernote device, I can actually import directly into here and it will sync to my device straight wherever I put it. So whatever directory I save it in, whatever folder I save it in, it's going to go there. You are going to get the same or a similar functionality in books, except for what's going to happen is you are not going to it's not going to automatically go to your library or go to the folder. You'll notice they tell you it's going to go to a specific place, and then you'll have to move it once it's over there. And that's not a problem. That's just the way the system works. And on ViWoods, you're going to only be able to upload really into your learning section. So you can import into paper, but if you notice, you can only do templates. So that's not going to help us much. We can do a PDF template, but we can't do an EPUB. So this is kind of a non-starter. But you can, in learning, upload the following formats. So you'll notice it's PDF, EPUB, AZW, which are your Amazon, and Mobi. It does not allow comic books, any CBZ files, anything like that. So it's fairly limited in the types of documents you can upload. So just to give you kind of that context of how these devices work. So let's go ahead and pull in our EPUB that we just downloaded. So we'll go ahead and tap here to upload, and we'll go into my downloads, and then we will pull this in. So it's going to pull that in. There's my EPUB, and then it's ready to go. So now once I open up my books device here in a little bit, I'll be able to find that EPUB and I'll show you where that is. So really quick, really seamless. Now let's go to the ViWoods. We'll pull the same document in, and you'll notice here that I get a little status bar and it tells me it's done, but it doesn't show me it's done. I don't get to see it. So when we go to the ViWoods, you'll see that when I go to sync the device, what it will do is it'll ask me if I want to accept the file. To me, that was a little confusing the first time I did it because I was expecting to see the file. And so I uploaded it like 3 times and ended up having to accept all 3 and then delete 2 of them. And it's just getting used to that interface. So I don't want to overstate what the issue is here, but I also want to be very clear that I don't understand some of the choices they made or some of the choices they made here. I really think it would have been nice to at least have something showing you that it was done and when the expiration was, all of that. They do that if you export to the web from the device. And I don't have anything on here because they've all expired, but they do give you that information if you do that. The recent blog I wrote was that way. So now let's go over here to the Supernote, and we will go to upload, and we will go to that same thing, and it's going to go, told me it was successfully processed here. And now when I go into my device, it will be there. It looks like they're having a little bit of trouble here with the interface just because I've got them in these small windows. So here's my file right here at the top. And when I go to open that on the device, you'll notice that works, and I can still search and create new folders. I'm not going to do that for this specific thing, but it's nice to have that option. So I pushed that. That was another step. I had to push that to the device for books. On here, I don't have to do anything but sync my device, and then here I have to accept, and I'll show you each of those processes. So let's go ahead and jump over really quickly to the demo side of things, and we will go ahead and start with the ViWoods, and then we will basically go through from ViWoods to Supernote and then to books to show you 2 things. 1, that it came over to the device, and 2, what the actual interfaces look like and the tool sets you get for each device when you're talking about annotating. And we won't do, like I said, I don't think I'm going to do a PDF in this video or it'll get excessively long, but we'll do it on the EPUB. That way again, you can see kind of what that looks like. But let's go ahead and pop over there and take a look really quick. So here we are with the ViWoods and the AiPaper, and you'll notice that when I came into my library, I went ahead and I hit this import button and it popped up. I can either use my QR code or I can go ahead and just, since I had it set up for that VT transfer and it's coming through that way, I can just hit receive. And when I do that, there's my book. So pretty easy as far as that goes on getting it into the device. Again, it's more clunky on the other side than it is this side, but it's something that you're just going to have to deal with. Okay, so here we are in the book, and one thing I want to be very clear about with this is the reading experience on all these devices is very good. I'm not going to go over the reading experience. What I am going to do though is go over kind of the tool sets you have to be able to work on the device. And with the ViWoods, you have specific tools for this. So we'll go ahead and let's get into, in fact, let's just jump into a chapter. So we're in chapter 1 here. You can see the first part, chapter 1, a runaway reef. So you have several options here. You can write on the device. So you can say, this is a solid start. So now I have entered what they call an annotation. I get several pen styles here. So if I go, putting that up, sorry, this is a weird angle. So I still get my calligraphy pen, I get my fountain pen, I get my ballpoint pen, and I get my highlighter pen. So I can use those different things here. And then here I get my selection tool or my highlighter so I can actually highlight text. So let's say that, so yeah, from here you have your AI, you have translation. So you can actually translate this if you would like to. You can change your, and tell it what language you want to translate it to. You can look up in your dictionary, you can copy, you can share, and then you can change your like highlighter. So if you go to share, obviously you can share this out again as an email through VT transfer and over Bluetooth and as either a PDF or text. So there are some options here for that particular way of doing things. And then you have your eraser. You can see your chapters, but here's where it gets interesting. So right now you have your AI, you have your bookmarks, but this is a very limited tool set. So I can make a note and I can make a highlight. What they consider a note or what they consider this writing I did is an annotation. So if I go into here, you're going to see that I have annotations and highlights. So those are the only things that right now I can do on this device. Whatever pages I write on, I can see what I've written, which is right here, and I can see anything that I highlighted, which is here. In and of itself, that's already useful. So if you're used to just marking up papers by hand and you don't need to do a lot of different things with them, this could be really useful for you. You could sit down, you could write in the margins, you could get everything you need, you could highlight, you can change the color of those highlights, and maybe that works for you. Maybe that's good enough. But what it is it's a very limited palette and tool set. Let's say we want to do a different highlight. So I highlighted that. Now I have 2 highlights in here. Let's go back and we will see what that looks like. Now we'll go in here and you'll notice now there are 2 highlights. So we've still got our markup and then we have our 2 highlighted pieces of text. And this will scroll. And let's just, for fun, go through a couple of other pages just to make sure we've got a couple of different things. Pop in over here and let's write more. Go and write more text. And then let's go ahead and highlight first sentence here. We'll highlight this first sentence and we'll make that a highlight. And now you're good to go. And we'll go back over here. And now you can see I have my different highlights all the way through here. It's a very basic tool. It works very well. It's really responsive. The biggest thing I would say is that You are going to want to be really sure what you want to use this device for if you're going to use this annotation or this markup tool, because it's just going to be different. It's not going to be the same experience if you're coming from another device like Supernote or BOOX. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump on over to the Supernote platform and take a look at how this works over there. Okay, I have to say, first of all, that this is a little bit exciting because I haven't picked up my Manta since I started receiving these other devices, except to update it, and I played with the digest that's in the beta a little bit. But I haven't been daily driving it, and it's bothered me a bit because I'm so used to this interface, and I really do like it. I like it so much. But let's go into our documents. So here's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You'll notice that the display automatically opens a little bit different. There's a little less customization on the Supernote as far as how you view, especially once you start writing and annotating. But what you'll notice is there's a complete difference in the way the toolbar is set up. So you have your pins. You can have up to 3 pins, your stroke erase, your region erase, and your page erase. You also have your lasso tool, and then you have your bookmark. So very similar to the ViWoods. But now if you go to this more menu, here's where you're going to see some other things. So you can add a keyword here. You can search. You can change your display settings if you'd like. And then you can also do your different gestures and you can set some preferences. So this is where the digest comes in. So you can show kind of the A and D for the digest, or you can turn that off. I have it turned off just because it's not that useful for me because it underlines it. But so when you go into this, and let's go ahead, oh, got used to the other devices. So it's a 2-finger swipe now on the Supernote. So I'll go ahead and I will go through, and you'll notice that it's very crisp. I absolutely love this device. I missed it very, very much. So let's go ahead back to that same spot for the runaway reef. Now they automatically give you more margin around here. You can customize that if you'd like. You also have these navigation features to jump around. But the biggest thing I want to focus on is the tool set for annotations. It's a little different between PDFs and EPUBs on the Supernote. EPUBs are a little harder to get to the digest just because you have to draw the brackets, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Change my pen here, and of course I get all my pen styles, which I didn't go through. They don't have the calligraphy pen and everything, but I tend to write with my favorite pen, which is their ballpoint pen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go this a great intro. And so now I have that scribble or that writing on there. Now what's different is that I can also do an annotation, and I can also in PDFs do an embedded comment. But here, let's go ahead and just add this to the digest. So we'll add this first. So now you saw that was underlined. Now I have the annotations tool. So they don't have a highlight tool in PDFs for the Supernote, but they have their annotations tool. So I can do handwriting annotations. So if I want to, go into great detail and I write a bunch of stuff down through here, I can do that. So I can either use the handwriting keyboard or I can use the regular. So I will do type text. And you'll notice that that does a really good job of recognizing that. Anyway, so I have that, and I can actually now even edit here. So I could add in explanatory text. I could uh, just do some different things with this and then import that into a note, but we won't go into all that. I have a separate video that I will link down in the comments on the beta digest, which is pretty cool. So now we will go ahead and get out of there. So you'll notice now that I have my digest entry, I have my annotations, and then I can also, and this is where it gets fun, I can also add a keyword. So let's say that I'm going to be over here and I want to say follow up. Now I can use my gestures And now I can add a keyword right here. So I can say copy, it's going to recognize that. And it says follow up, and I can say add. So now when I go out, if I go here, I can see my keywords. I can see the table of contents. So I see the table of contents. I see the keywords. If I had any bookmarks, I could see that. If I have annotations, I can see that. And you even get the star marking system, which is another benefit of the Supernote. Okay, I was drawing at an angle, so that made it much harder than it should have been. So now I have a star. So I go back. Now you'll notice that I can just show star marks. So it'll take me to that page if I click on that. I can show all annotations, which are anything that I wrote in the entire book. Then, of course, I have the bookmarks, I have the keywords, and I can look at keywords by page or by keyword type. And then I have the actual table of contents for the EPUB. So just a different way of interacting. And we'll do a separate video on PDF markup, which will show, even in the starker contrast on the numbers of things that you can do. But to me, this is really useful. And all of your same gestures are here. So again, if I write something, and then I do my gestures for my select, I get that cut, copy, delete, keyword. So you don't get as many tools in the EPUB as you do in a PDF, but you still get quite a few. And I think it's really important to know that there's more functionality here than what you're seeing in the ViWoods interface. And that's just the way that the system is configured. All right, so that is the Supernote on an EPUB. And it's not a huge amount of functionality. I mean, it is a huge amount of functionality difference. But comparing what's actually going to be able to be really useful for you, because there's no way in the ViWoods to get those annotations out of an EPUB. There's no way to take what you're doing here from, for example, the digest and move that into a note out of the ViWoods. So the AiPaper really has kind of a very limited tool set versus this device. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the BOOX Note Air 4C. Okay, so on BOOX, it's a little bit different, and it took me a minute to get my head around this. But what you do is you go into your apps, and of course I have mine organized, and I go into folders, and then I go into the BOOX Drop app, and you would think it would be under Receive, and that's where I went to begin with, but it's actually under Push. When I go to Push, you're going to see my file over here. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to open that. Now, what's nice about this is you're going to notice there's color. I mean, obviously this is the Note Air 4C, so you are going to have color on this device, which really does make a difference sometimes when you're reading, especially here when you're looking at the detail on the suits and everything. It's kind of neat to see that gradation of color. But so we'll go ahead and we'll get through. Remember, this does have a front light, which is why it looks so bright. But it's also very crisp, but very clean to read. And you get, let's go to the same spot again. So we go to Runaway Reef. That was interesting, and I'll have to take a look and see if it was a me thing or if it was a BOOX thing, but the table of contents was not hyperlinking the way it should. Let's take a look here at what the tools you have. So again, we'll go, let's go to our pen here. So you have to tell it you're ready to write. And then, of course, you get a ton of options. I mean, BOOX is the absolute leader in just the amount of options you have. So here we are, and you've got all these different tools, all these different pens, all of your straight lines, eraser, your lasso tool, and then you actually have handwriting toolbar settings, so you can add even more tools in. There is an AI functionality that you saw when I get out of this. So if I go back out, I can go to different AI options and set all of my smart shapes. All of the things that you can think of for books are also available here. So it's a lot of different things. And then the Neo Reader, of course, has all of the different options that you can set up different gesture settings, all of that. So I won't go in like super detail on the Neo reader because that's just another time to go through that. But what I will do is talk about, again, the annotation tools and where they differ from what you see on the ViWoods AI paper. So here you go, and I tend to turn touch off when I'm writing on this, but for right now, I'm not going to. So I'll go ahead, I've entered my annotation mode, and I can say, this is a great intro. And now that's right there. And then I can save that annotation anytime I want. And I can also lasso it. So let's go ahead and lasso it. And you'll see now I get all of the other tools. I can copy that. I can undo it. I can change the color of it. I can do a lot of different things there. But I don't want to do anything with that. I want to leave it alone. I can go here and go back to the previous toolbar. I can mark up in different colors. I can do all kinds of things. But let's go ahead and go back out. So now let's say that I want to highlight. So I can actually drag, and you'll notice here it's green because I have that set currently at green. And so I go here. Now this is where it just, again, gets, if you compare this to what the AI paper offers, it's really not a contest. I can change the color. I can make it a jagged underline. I can erase it. I can link it to something. I can translate it, annotations, copy it. I can use the AI assistant on it. So this idea that the AI paper is the only AI device is a little bit of a misnomer as well. But let's just go into annotations, for example, since we're looking at the different platforms. Again, this is very similar to what you saw on the Supernote for an annotation. Now, the difference between the Supernote and the BOOX device is Supernote allows you to do both handwritten annotations and typed annotations. This doesn't do that. So it's not going to have both of those. What it will do is allow you to either do text to speech to enter your annotation. You can write. So here is an annotation, and that will recognize right there. And then I can update. So now that highlighting is going to have that annotation. And I can also, like I said, I can share this, I can link it, I can do a lot of different things here. Let's just go ahead to the AI assistant. So again, this is ChatGPT, and it highlights the text, and then I can ask it different questions. Very similar to the AI paper, quite frankly, in the way it handles that. And then I can search, and I have my dictionary. So a lot of different things available here. If I go here now, I can see all of the different things that I have. So I can go to content, and you'll notice that I have the actual, chapters very similar to the Supernote, all laid out. So I can see everywhere I'm in the book. I can go to my bookmarks, which I don't currently have any. I can go to my highlights, and I can go to my annotations. Your annotations and your highlights are there, are actually your scribbles. So let's step back again. So anything you write, the AI paper calls an annotation. Anything that you write, Supernote calls an annotation. But you also get the option of the digest, which allows you to enter handwritten and typed text. BOOX calls this basically a scribble. This here is going to show you, here's an annotation, that's my annotation. And then here's what I would call your scribble. So basically where you have anything you've written. So they denote it differently with the pen. So it works very similar to the Supernote in that regard. So this is an annotation, which is typed text, or in Supernote's case, handwritten text or typed. And that would be the digest type feature. And then here is the actual handwriting on the book itself. And so that's just a little bit of nuance and difference. What you don't get here is the ability to, and what you notice you don't get is you don't get tags, you don't get keywords, you don't get any of that. But what you do get is the ability to have your smart shapes. So if I wanted straight lines, which of course Supernote does too, but if I also wanted to do a smart shape, I can do that. And so I get a lot of different functions here that you don't get on the Supernote. Let's go ahead and put these side by side for a second because I do want to check one thing just to make sure I'm giving the correct information. So let's try our straight line. Go to our calligraphy pen. So you do get straight lines. So you can do that. Again, that's still under the writing category. Let's see if you can do the shape recognition. So let's go ahead and so yes, the shape recognition does work on both the Note Air 4C and on the AiPaper. So all of the writing functions are going to work across on all of these devices that they have. Supernote doesn't have shape recognition, so it's not going to have that, but it will have the straight line feature. From a writing perspective, from actually writing on the book, you're going to get a very similar experience on all of these devices. From a highlighting perspective, if you're just strictly highlighting, you're going to get a very similar experience on all three of these devices. However, what you get on the Supernote and the BOOX platform just far exceeds what you get on the AiPaper. There are just so many more things that you can do on these two devices when it comes to marking up a document. Now, for some, that may not be important. And if it's not, and if ease of use and straightforward is what you need, the AiPaper does a great job. It's not that much friction to get the document onto the device. It's not that much friction to be able to write on it. I mean, you just pick it up and you go. You just write, and it works. It's not hard to highlight. Highlighting is very easy. But if you want to embed any kind of text in those highlights, if you want any kind of a digest type feature, it doesn't exist. It's not there. If you want to have the AiPaper help you read a text, so maybe it's hard language, maybe it's Old English, maybe you need translation done. Again, it does that. It will help you with that. So will BOOX though. Plus you get all those other tools. Now the Supernote, quite frankly, that's a place it struggles. It doesn't have an onboard dictionary, AI, or translation. So if you're wanting to use it for that purpose, the AiPaper's probably got an advantage over this platform. But if you're wanting to take deep, detailed notes, be able to move that into a notebook, the new version, especially of the digest, makes all of that possible now with this. Now, could you take and use the pickings feature to pull out a page at a time of the AiPaper out of this book, mark it up in a different way, and then basically turn it into something else? Yes. But it's still a lot more friction to be able to do that, and not all of that travels. And when we get into the actual use of the apps and why that's so important, and again, watch my video on the digest feature, the new one, and you'll see just how useful that can be. But with that, let's go ahead and jump back over really quickly and round out. All right, everybody, thank you for hanging in there with me. Thanks for being a part of this. This was something that I felt was really important to talk about, and again, it's going to be a little bit longer video, but I also didn't want to go into the whole PDF thing because, again, you want to be really clear about what the devices do and don't do. The Supernote and the BOOX platform are very well developed. They've been doing this for a long time, but a lot of these tools aren't new. Now, some of them are, and I want to be clear about that. They've had years to develop some things. The new digest that's in beta for the Supernote, brand new tool. So that's something that they didn't launch with. They had a version of the digest though that did a lot of the same things. You could still add handwritten comments in. So it was similar. It just wasn't as powerful as this new version is going to be. Books has always, as far as I know, had all of these annotation features and components in the Neo reader. I think that the AI feature is new, which is very similar to the AI paper features. So it really makes me wonder if Books isn't closing that gap to where the AI functionality claimed by the AI paper is going to be a non-starter and not really going to be as much of a differentiator since Books now does that. So we'll just have to see. But the idea that you have more than just highlighting, more than just writing on the page. Again, if that's all you need and you can get by with the onboard dictionary and the translation functions and AI, that's great. But what you miss out on is the close reading and the ability to do some of the things that I would do, which is take those detailed notes, then be able to move that somewhere else. Or in Books's case, to be able to really copy and paste across all different types of platforms. Again, let me know down in the comments, drop your thoughts. Let me know if you think I'm off base. I just think that if you're paying for a premium device, if you're paying a good amount of money, it should do a lot of things. And right now, I think that the AI paper is struggling in some of those things. Is the hardware there? Absolutely. It and the Manta have the same exact screen. It actually has a little bit of an advantage in the processing power and onboard storage over the Manta. Now, this Manta is expandable to a much higher degree with it being modular, but also the SD card slot. But the actual screen technology is almost identical. And I think that, if you compare these side by side, though, they're all competing in that quote unquote premium category. And I just don't see the AI paper is there yet. Could it be in 6 months to a year? Absolutely. I mean, it's running the newest hardware. So the biggest thing they need to do is think about software. How can they maximize the user experience? Why don't they have some kind of a digest type feature? Why don't they have any kind of an embedded annotation feature? Why is it only allowing you to write on the book itself, but not letting you do anything else with that? And when we get to the PDF comparison, and I know this video is probably already long, but it would have been even longer had I tried to do what PDFs do between these three devices. So that will be for a separate video. But until next time, thank you all so much. Please, you'll see my patrons going right up here on the screen. Thank you to all of you who supported me in various ways. Feel free to check out the website, check out the things I use my affiliate links. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section. And until next time, thank you so much and keep on moving forward. Have a great day. Bye now.